Hey, greetings and welcome to Code Quickie. Today we're going to be looking at datasets with Google Bigquery API. So please like, share, and subscribe. Most importantly, reach out to me in the comments. I love to be assisted and I love to receive assistance as we go together on this journey to get certified with GCP. I'll try to be posting videos every day. Now let's get started. So overview of datasets. So in Postgres, MySQL, we know we have databases which hold all our tables, right? Just organization. In BigQuery, it is known as data sets, right? And these data sets, right, in the cloud, they can be held in a region, right? That they get held in multi-regions, right? Very, very important to know. And then when it comes to data sets, when managing your data sets, right? Any incident can happen, whether it could be mother nature, whether it could be crime or terrorism, or it could be a software failure, or the region goes down. Always important to have a second source for your data. Always want to be able to back up your data, where it's going to be on a terabyte stick. That and the third, where it's going to be throughout the cloud or through a different cloud provider or through your enterprise. Always want to make sure you back up your data, definitely when dealing with data sets. So let us get started. So after the lab, right, we want to be able to, you should look like dataset.final, and then if you have any issues, refer to datasets.start. So we're going to have here today, we're going to have a full stack application, right? We're going to be working with amazing Angular front end as well as the Python backend. So what we're going to go ahead and do is download the front end, and I have mine set up already. And then I would like to take this time. Obviously, I'm not sponsored, but I just want to introduce DownGit. Say, for example, you have a repo and you're not interested in downloading the whole repo, and for you guys, you're not interested in downloading the whole repo. Definitely want to get to the project. Definitely want to deal with specifically databases. Right, DownGit allows you to take a folder in a GitHub repo typo, tongue twister today, and download like so. So we have that downloaded. What we want to go ahead and do is we want to head to the front end root folder, and we want to go ahead and run npx ngserve configuration. We want to run this command right here. Open true opens it, immediately opens your browser after it builds, right? So we also want to do, we want to go ahead and download the Python backend as well. There's a lot of downloads that are taking place here, right? You want to download that Python backend. And then on installation, just very, very important that you include this command. Uh, this helps install in the local directory. If you're definitely get into installations with Python, definitely familiar with site packages. These are where your modules go. If you actually look in your system installation for Python, or if you opted for user installation per user installation for Python, this is where your modules go when you go ahead and download Google Cloud modules, that and the third of Python, right? So it's very, very important that I actually want a project local installation, because, and the scripts are going to take care of this. The scripts I provide will take care of this, but you want this local because pip install tends to overwrite a lot. It will overwrite your system installation, right? And you want these modules to come in together. If not, they're going to overwrite each other. Pip install, especially with that upgrade option, please don't be using the upgrade option in the labs, because they will overwrite and they may cause mayhem. Python is actually very important to desktop applications. I really don't want to overwrite them to know you can't even attempt the lab and you have more issues. So very, very important. Please refer to the target. Most important, run the command with the target flag enabled. And after that, we want to go ahead and do is run Python build server, right, which we have in its project root, where we want to go to the root of the project after we have that set up. And right, we're going to be serving our backend from port 3005. So now let us work, since our full stack environment is set up, right, front end and back end, right, we can go ahead and set up our environment. Let's go set up the environment, right? And then we're going to be looking at creating data sets. So when we create a data set in BigQuery, what we have is a set of rules, right? They must be unique and they're case insensitive. That means that when you have capital My data set and lowercase my data set, right, this is allowed. So let us go and let's go see what I mean. Right, we're going to go ahead and make that data set, right? And I also forgot, I believe I forgot, yeah, right? I forgot, I think I forgot to paste that code here, right, to create a data set, right? This is the code. All right, let us go ahead and kill that process. And then a mostly important thing when we're going through this lab, right? Front end Angular hot reload. That is something, so when you're making edits in the front end with Angular, right? It's able to immediately reload without killing its serving process. Unlike React, right? React, you every time you make an update, right, you have to kill the React process and start it up again. However, with Python, you also have to do the same as well. So we're just going to go ahead every time you need to make an edit, right? And we're code blocking here. So it shouldn't be too tedious and burdensome, right? So let's go ahead and create like so, right? And now we're able to create our data set. And now let's say lowercase, we want Angular, just a lowercase Angular, right? And we create it like so. However, right, we try to create the same name with the data set, right? We're going to get a message from our front end saying that we cannot do such things, right? And then another thing as well, you're not allowed to have any spaces. So say, for example, we're trying our front end, right? It won't even allow it. If you look at the code, the backend is actually throwing an error here. So when it comes to copying data sets, so next we're going to look at copying data sets. When it comes to copying data sets, first things first, you want to go ahead and enable the BigQuery data transfer service. Take a look at the instructions, right? Don't get overwhelmed by the docs. What you need to do, just scroll all the way down to enable the data transfer API. Okay, head there and click the enable button and you're good to go. Really don't get threatened by the docs. That's what this channel is here for, right? So now let's go ahead and copy our environment object. So um, when copying, copying data sets in BigQuery is actually a beta feature. So I do expect things to change, right? I do expect create and copy to meaningfully end up as one API request to the BigQuery API. I'll love to see that. Right? And then also you want to be able to make sure that as you're copying and pasting, that the indentation level matches up, right? If you're having issues, if you're using VS Code, you have an indentation issues, right? What we can go ahead and do, Control A on the file, and then check for arrows, because like some errors, there might be arrows. That means VS Code is using the tab indentation instead of space indentation. Want to go back and convert those spaces to tabs, but you should be safe. There should be spaces, should be space indentation here. Other, right, as you can see, that's my configuration. But if that doesn't help and you have a tab configuration, what you can do is Control Shift P, right? That leads you to the VS Code command line, and you want to type in format document, and it should, if there's a linter installed, there should be able to help you reformat the document, and you won't have to deal with any syntax error issues, right? So we updated our environment and now we updated the code. So we want to go ahead and do, when I kill the task, right? And then in Windows, I don't know if I mentioned this, or I want to use task kill. In Linux, it might be easier. You want to send a 15 signal to shut down gracefully, but in Windows, this is not so. With the Python server, it's actually very stubborn, and you really want to force that kill. So you want to go ahead, let's run that build server again. Let's go ahead and try to copy a data set, right? So in order, so what we have here is we're going to go ahead and in our app, we're going to create a source data set for you, right? And then we are going to copy to our destination data set. And now that destination data set needs to exist, right? Or else we're going to get an error, right? And a bit lazy about right, there's a space in there, right? So that's invalid, right? So we want to use, right? And then I wish we could update it better. We have a situation where we update the same message. That's okay. However, we'll just look at the message coming from the server, cannot find the destination data set, right? So the destination data set needs to exist. Let's give one that we created, Angular BigQuery. We go ahead and hit the submit button. And now what we have is a job that is running. I believe this is a load job. And if you want to see it, if you want to interact with it, right? Obviously, these data sets are empty. So in development, this is not going to be an issue, but in production, so if you want to stop it because it might be very expensive, you thought there's a billion rows in there, there's actually a trillion rows in there, and your startup can't afford it. What we want to go ahead and do is here is the interface to work with this, right? We can see this, and we can see our schedule here, right? First we get a schedule, right? So this doesn't happen once. So you have a trillion rows of data getting copied every 24 hours. Yeah, your startup might not be able to afford that. So what we can do is could immediately delete it if need be, right? If we want to interact with some more, we want to click on that job. And then how we're able to infer that, right? Display name was dataset copy name when I was creating that transfer config object, right? And then we could click on more, right? Say for example, we actually have the money, we just got funding, and we really need this done so we could take those wings and fly, right? You could run that transfer now and then upload and then copy a trillion rows at the click of a button. Obviously, it's going to take time to copy that, right? Because under the hood, I believe what's happening, we're going to see later that BigQuery will actually send this to big um, Google Cloud Storage, put all the data in a bucket, move it to a different region if need be, and then download it into a new BigQuery and download it. But as you can see, right, your data set needed to be created. So, but dealing with Google Cloud Storage outside the scope, so let us focus back on data sets, right? That's just a little aside I just wanted to update you on. So now what we're looking at is controlling. So let's go. Yeah, since this is empty, I don't have to worry. We could look at controlling access to data sets. That's our access control that we're talking about. And then also, I just wanted to mention in this lab, I'm going to have the permissions and the roles that we need to work with BigQuery API. And then if you need any more resources, I definitely recommend reading on the difference between permissions and roles, and then how that's important in your applications. Right. So just want to make sure you want to go ahead, kill that Python task, then PowerShell. And just want to mention that this is a PowerShell command. Not too sure if this happens in Windows command line prompts. When PowerShell, that is the command to effectively knock out that prize bomb process. Right. So we have a sample. We have a Google provided email, so we don't have to worry about security here. And want to give this email the reader role. We can go ahead and do type in the name of the data set we want to provide that role to, and then I'll provide resources on different types of permissions and what we can do with the roles and the entity types. Where you could see that we have an overview of what we're looking at. I'll definitely provide a resource. Hit the submit. All right, and now we can see with this Python here that now this user is able to look at that BigQuery data set. Okay, so next what we want to do is work with listing data sets. I want to show it to you, even though I highly recommend not to use it. You might not be able to see this in this video, but when you delete a data set or and you go back to listen data sets, right? It gets there's a lot of caching that takes place. It doesn't update everywhere in the BigQuery API concerning your project. And what might happen is you might be looking at data sets that were supposed to be deleted, that are deleted, but don't actually reflect in the UI. And certainly, in my experience, do not reflect with client list all data sets. This is the problem. This is the trickster that would cause many issues, right? So I always recommend you actually use get data set instead of list data sets, right? So I believe we updated but however, I just wanted to go over what it would look like. we'll go ahead, kill that Python process. If any resources about how to get a watchful Python process going, definitely put it in the comments, right? So now I want to go ahead and list our data sets. We don't need a name. However, we can see these are our data sets, which is very nice. And we head over to the UI. I want to confirm that is the case, right? You can see that our data sets are like so, right? You can really see that we just need to do a lot of refreshing, right? This is the thing about, this is really common in Google Cloud platform with their UIs. They don't update real time. You just saw that we went from one page to another and it still did not manage to update. However, we can see that on page reload that it manages to update, which is very, very nice. Very, very nice, right? So we can see it matches, but when it comes to deleting, right, also want to watch for that method. Use get if you can. So about getting, we want to get information, we want to get that metadata about all data sets. Say if you're interested in the description, in the friendly name, you could look at that information. However, we're not going to see it in practice for this lab. However, definitely when it comes to the workplace, you're definitely going to see it more. When it comes to doing this lab on your own free time, you're definitely going to see all the different data that you can work with, right? So we want to provide that metadata, kill that Python server. We serve it up again. And I want to look at some metadata. We go ahead and submit, right? Clearly the data set needs to exist, right? We don't see a friendly name, description. We don't see any labels. We don't see any tables in it, right? We have an empty table, but if you take a table that exists, right, you want to go ahead and change the client project, right? Say, for example, we see make dataset ID. You want to make a look at take a look at the method here where you could replace client project with something that actually exists, right? You could take a look at the public data sets, BigQuery public data. Right? It's going to take a while to download. And then we could take a data set instead from here and we're able to look at it. You know what? I'm actually getting very curious. Let me actually see what this looks like. Yeah, let me go ahead and replace BigQuery public data. I'll be able to copy and paste and let us paste Austin 311, and let's just see what type of data, what type of tables that pop up, right? So we could show that this is actually working. And this lab is actually working too. So let's go ahead and submit, right? So it has no labels defined, right? Still interesting, but we get to see one table, so we just know it's working, right? So let us go update back over to our project here, and let us look at how we can update that data instead. All right, so what we want to do, we want to once again just update our environment. And you see that you're going to see in my videos, I do this a lot. Always recommend having an environment when definitely doing dev work so you definitely get to pinpoint causes, right? If statements in programming languages, conditionals are definitely good at not occurring at the same time, right? So if you have a dictionary, as you can see in Python and Ruby, JavaScript might be an object, that and the third C, it might be a struct, right? Definitely want to be able to use those data types in those program language to actually pinpoint what might be going on, right? So back to data sets, when we want to update, I just want to mention tables. We might have table expiration and then partition expiration. So the data set is like the general rule. Say, for example, that is affecting the table view, that, and the third. And if you want to get more granular, what you're going to do is you're going to target the table, something we're going to do in a future video. You want to target that table and you want to update the rules that, like, say, table expiration on that table, right? So we can see, right? So as you can see what we have here. So it's just a lot of code today that I'm trying to present. Data sets might be a mouthful, but back on focus. What I meant to say was you have a table, and if we update the table expiration on the data set, this is actually the general level. If we want to get to a specific level and exclude a certain table, right, we want to provide a table expiration or a partition expiration for that table or for that view, right? And as you can see here, we're able to update that data, right? And if we want to go back and we want to look at the metadata to see if it got updated, right, we can actually trust this method here to see that is the case. Kill this process and run it again. Go ahead, submit, right? And then we can see that description, updated description was updated like so. Right, so as you can see, updated data set with description, right? Updated description, and you can see that is like so. So last part of this lab, right? We want to see if we could delete a data set. And I actually want to point out something first. Let me update this environment. And in delete a data set, we wanted to copy our code for it like so. And I just want to point out here that we can actually decide to return an error if the application doesn't find it, right? So we can see in this keyword parameter, that's what's known as in Python, right? We could provide true. If you get true, you wouldn't get an error. I personally like to know exactly what's happening with my application. I don't like anything happening without my knowledge in my applications, right? So I set this to false, right? So say, for example, I want to go ahead and delete Angular Bigquery, which does not exist. I go ahead, hit submit. We can't find that data set, and we can see in our backend, it's not found. That's the type of error that we get. And if we want to go ahead and delete our data set now, right, the data set is deleted, right? And we can see this update in the, obviously have to refresh the page, right? It doesn't immediately happen in the UI. So always another tip, if you don't see an update in the UI, you want to refresh the page and see if it's so, right? And now to confirm that this delete method is working, right? We hit the submit button again and it can't find it. So once it's deleted, it's really deleted. However, this, like I said, you could try this on your own with the lab. If you actually go to list data sets, I might pull it up, but it's a reference. Yeah, but then again, it's a reference. It's not the actual data set in its entirety. So that is the lab today. I'll definitely post a link in the video description. Reach out to me for any assistance. Thanks for watching. I post videos every day. Please like, share, and subscribe.